Good afternoon. It is Thursday, October the 6th, about 5:30 p.m. This is Shay Gibson with Weather Flow and Wind Alert bringing you a Tropics update. So we continue to watch Major Hurricane Matthew, Category 4 storm closing in on the southeast Florida coast. Folks, it does not get any more real than this. They're getting ready to undergo a catastrophic storm with widespread wind damage, heavy rains, and flooding for this area. So the entire coast of Florida looks like it's going to have some extensive damage tonight. If we look at the 5 p.m. track guidance for this, we see the core just below Freeport and Grand Bahama heading towards the Florida coast, maintaining as a major storm all the way up towards Daytona and possibly as far as Jacksonville, and then weakening to a Category 2 into a Category 1 transition by Saturday afternoon along the South Carolina coast. Tropical storm warnings have been issued for the backside of Florida just north of Tampa Bay, also around the tip for the wraparound winds, and also the tropical storm warnings have been extended up past Cape Fear, North Carolina, and then the hurricane warnings just came through toward and included Charleston and Berkeley County. Just got the notification on my phone. I'm sure a lot of folks here where I live in Charleston got that same one. So we continue to watch the system. If we look at the water vapor imagery, there is some dry air out ahead of the system, so we hope that this dry air and land interaction plus a little bit cooler water off the coastline on the cooler shelf waters with also, cooler air injection with northerly winds will help to weaken this as it continues to go north, but not before doing a lot of damage to Florida. If we look at our storm track viewer and wind alert, we see the Category 4 storm projection going up the coast. And by the time it makes it to just north of Daytona Beach, we see that they drop it to a Category 3 and just east of Brunswick, Georgia to a Category 2 and transitioning to 1 just south of Charleston. And then we see this east-southeast push. Now the models are basically, the GFS is showing this where it hugs the coast very closely and then gives this easterly push, and that's going to be from westerly flow aloft coming into the picture, and we'll talk about that in a second. But let's look at the Euro. The Euro does the same thing, so they're both very much in agreement with this. Beyond that, the storm could loop back around and come back in for a second hit in Florida as well, so we have to really watch for that. There's a couple of reasons for it. Nicole may have something to do with this down the road. Hurricane Nicole, if we go back to our NHC map, Nicole was a hurricane and then it got downgraded to a tropical storm briefly this afternoon, and it's back up to a hurricane at 85 miles per hour. In the last video I talked about these systems being able to maintain themselves fairly well, these small compact systems in a dry air environment, and Nicole has done exactly that. So the winds are up to 85 miles per hour with pressure down to 982 millibars, and the system really is not going to go anywhere. It looks like it's going to kind of hang out just south or southwest of Bermuda for the next few days, and you can see the cone of uncertainty is very wide because they're not expecting a whole lot of movement with the system, but if it drifts off to the west towards this cone of uncertainty, it could have a little bit of interaction with Matthew, and that would be called a Fujiwara effect. I think there's a lot of speculation whether or not these storms may kind of combine together. And when you have a Fujiwara effect, sometimes you get two systems, especially tropical cyclones, when they get within about 800 or 900 miles of each other, they can have this sort of gravitational pull where if it's just enough, they'll start to circle around each other and then they blob together, kind of like a lava lamp. That happens more so at the northern latitudes with cold water cyclones, especially over the Bering Sea where these upper lows, those tend to happen. But with the tropical cyclones, we don't really see it that much. It's not very often that we would see something like that. But it would be interesting if these two did get within proximity of each other to show something very interesting. So we'll continue to monitor that. For right now, let's just watch for that easterly push. The thing that's going to be driving it is the winds aloft. So here's the 250 millibar winds. This is about 36,000 feet. And we see the storm coming up the coastline from Florida, and we see that upper jet sweeping across the country. This is a trough that's moving across. The GFS has this a little bit more pronounced than the Euro model. And you can see here by Saturday afternoon that the southwesterly jet makes it into our area, and then it starts to push the system off the shore. Then you see this westerly flow building in behind it. This is called zonal flow with westerly flow aloft, and we can even see that at the 500 millibar or 18,000 feet where this ridge is building in from the west. In fact, at the lower levels, we see this wind tilting from west northwest to east southeast. So that's why the system comes up and then kind of loops around in this direction, because the winds are going to be shifting, and as time goes on, they'll become a little bit more northwest in time. So that's going to be driving the system down. The steering pattern is going to be pushing it to the south in time, and that's what the GFS is showing. Here's the Euro bringing the system up the coastline. Let me go back to this one. System comes very close to the coast, and just as it gets south of Charleston, it hooks east. So if that jet makes it a little bit sooner, we're talking Saturday afternoon when this starts to happen, just south of Charleston, South Carolina, we'll see that push. And the Euro also agrees with the GFS on that looping sort of looping effect. So we'll see what happens there. Here's the jet stream analysis. 300 millibars at 30,000 feet. Here's another piece of information or a piece of evidence we could use to see what this method of thinking is for the jet stream forecast. This is from SFSU, San Francisco University, and they do pretty well with the jet stream forecasting. So here's the dip in jet stream by Saturday morning coming across. This was more pronounced earlier in the model, so we thought maybe there would be an earlier swing to the east, but it looks like it may hold off just a little bit. It's really going to be a timing issue with this. And as we see, we go into Saturday night at about 8 o'clock p.m. we see the westerly flow really kind of pumping through the area, so that's going to definitely keep the storm off the coastline if this forecast is correct. And then as we go in time, the upper jet keeps it westerly, so no chance of Matthew coming back to South Carolina, North Carolina unless that jet relaxes, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. It looks like it's going to be around for a few days, so we'll continue to watch that. Let's take a quick look at the storm surge. Storm surge warnings have been extended all the way up to Charleston, Berkeley County, just at the Georgetown County border. You can see the storm surge swath, how wide it is. That is extensive, actually impressive on some levels. But if we look at the actual storm surge flooding map, we can see down in Cape Canaveral and the Indian River areas, the storm surge map projection is over 9 feet for some of these areas. So we're going to see extensive flooding from surging, high winds, heavy rain. You name it, they're in a really bad shape down there in Florida. And in fact, we see even the inner estuaries and marshlands greater than 9 feet as well as we go up the coastline. If we go into Georgia, we see that the storm surge is mainly between 6 and 9 feet. We could call that 7 to 10 feet. As we get to Charleston, looks like that drops off significantly, and we should be between, I would say, about 7 to 9 feet at the most with the high tide. We could see the high tide being between 7 and 9 feet, but the surge is mainly anywhere from 4 to 6 feet or 3 to 6 feet for most areas here. But this is a good product. If you go to nhc.noaa.gov, this is part of a new product they started this year, so you can kind of get an idea of what the storm surge product is showing for our area. And this is high resolution, and it updates fairly frequently, so you can take a look at that there. Rainfall totals. This is the latest WPC rainfall totals of the Weather Prediction Center, and they show anywhere from a foot to 15 inches along the coastline from heavy rain. So this is sort of a general swath, but the National Weather Service, I know for at least Charleston, had greater than 10 inches for the Charleston area. So you may want to check your local National Weather Service office. That is the best source you can go to find out what they're saying for rainfall in your local area, because one state to another could differ greatly, and county to county could differ greatly as well. So make sure you check that out. We look at the tracks for the system. Here's the total track guidance for the 6 o'clock run from Tropical Tidbits, our friend Levi Cowan there. Great site. If you've never been there, you should check it out. But either way, these tracks really push it up the coastline. You see this hooking feature. So pretty much in agreement there. There are still some models that shoot this off to the northeast in time along that westerly flow. If the zonal flow doesn't tilt, then that means it will push it further east, and if it actually weakens, that ridge weakens to the west, then we could see a total track to the northeast. So some of the models are showing that as well, but for right now, that should do it for the tropical update. There's really not much you can do if you're living in Florida. If you haven't evacuated, you may still have a small window right now. The storm looks like it's trying to intensify. The eye wall is getting more organized, and you can actually, in this last frame, you can almost see a pronounced eye almost to the surface, and it's heading right across Freeport and Grand Bahama. It should be moving over that island now. So catastrophic damage expected. Thoughts with Florida tonight. We'll have to watch and see what happens. And the next update from the NHC will be at 8 o'clock p.m. So until next time, stay safe. Thanks for watching.